Welcome, everybody, to War Wizard Games. So today we're going to take a look at Knock on the Coffin Lid. Now, on this channel, I like to play games. So, you know, let's plays, reviews, that kind of stuff. I mean, first of all, you can assume if I'm playing a game that I like it. So therefore, that's a review in the sense that I'm going to invest my time in it. So that probably means that if you're interested in the same things I'm interested in or what I'm playing, that you're probably going to like it too. I promise not to stream any bad games. I promise not to stream any games that people just pay me to play. I promise all those things. You guys can watch the intro video to the channel and see all that great stuff. So fantastic game here from an indie studio. It's actually fully released. This is not early access or any of those things. In fact, the first DLC is even out for it. So it's been debugged to a huge degree. There are still, issues with all games, but this, roguelike game where you're going to go play through multiple storylines that tell you a story about, what's going on and learn the background throughout it. It also has challenge mode, has a lot of stuff in it. But, again, if you watch my stuff before, we're just going to get into it and I'll pause along the way and chat about stuff, like, don't like, what I think's cool, all that kind of stuff. So we're going to go into story mode. We're actually not starting like right at the beginning. We're starting actually with the third character in the series. I won't spoil kind of the first two. We'll just kind of play through this one. And we're partially through this, so you'll get to see how some of the mechanics work, around the characters and everything. So in story mode, new game, etc. You have multiple games in progress, all that kind of good stuff. We're just going to punch continue. So continue is going to bring you to the screen you're going to see a lot. Mortis, who is the guy here, is the one that keeps resurrecting you as you go through the game and do stuff. And he'll always give you some tips over here. I've got pretty much all the default stuff turned on. I haven't sped up animations or done any of those kinds of things. He's the person that's kind of orchestrating the story along the way. So he's a combination of, your mentor slash, person who's leading you along the way. And he's also the narrator in many sections of the story. Although you'll see the individuals narrate their story. So one of the first things you can do is go to the crypt where all the bodies are. Anytime you get back to this main screen, and you can choose who you want to play. So Percival and Bjorn are both here. I'm not going to get into both of those. We're going to be playing Vanadis, who is our archer. They all have slightly different play styles, play stuff, etc. So so we're going to punch next. And that's going to take us into your class choices. So every one of these characters has multiple class choices. So this is her first incarnation, which is around her with her boar pet. I'm not going to go read through every detail in there. Second pet is the more dexterous, sharp-toothed fox, which is all about evasion and, kind of rogue behavior and things like that. Whereas the other is a more straightforward archer with a tank, the boar, that's in front of them. So you'll have a set of available cards, some of which will be, cards you've seen before throughout your doing things, but these are the special cards. And you'll notice many of them are level locked, level 3, level 4, level 5. So you won't actually get these until you reach those levels. Again, I'll talk about them when we get into the game. And then down here, you've got your class items. Now, in this game, items also deliver you cards. Everything's card driven, in the manner of most deck builders. And so how you sort your cards, which ones you keep, which ones you upgrade. Again, if you've played Slay the Spire and games like that, kind of know how this works. Related to them, you're going to get cards, you're going to get chances to upgrade them, you're going to get chances to upgrade your pets. The other classes don't have pets, they have other kinds of things. And also your armor and your equipment gives you more cards, does different kinds of things. Again, I'm not going to go into all the detail around the functions until we get in the game. So we're going to take that one and we're going to rock. We're back here with old Mortis, and we're going to continue on our way, which is going to take us to the world map. If you guys want and you get into chat, just let me know down below if you guys want to hear more lore-based playthrough. This one's kind of functional playthrough. I'll still talk about the lore and things like that, but there's a lot of lore in here that you'll learn. Each of the characters learn things along the way in their different paths. The short version of what's going on is that you've all died in the process of poisoning the previous king of the lands who held the different areas together. And each of you had different motives for being friends or supporting the previous ruler. And now you're wandering through the land after his death has occurred and broken apart the relations between the elves, the dwarves, the orcs, and the humans. And the demons. Well, the demons are a different story. You'll see them more as we get through the games. So in each of these runs, you're going to progress through three areas, and you'll always kind of start in the same area and end in the same area, but you can make decisions along the way about which areas you pass through in the middle. So again, we'll talk about each of those as we go. You'll see 3 blinky skulls here in the beginning. That's the beginning of choosing your path. You'll also see that some things are revealed. So for example, if I go hover over this feather over here, it reminds us that that's the buried treasure. And again, if you look over here in the book, when we pop it out, if I remember how to pop it out, hello, there we go. In the event log here, whenever I select something, you'll actually see it in the event log, right? So you can kind of start to see what's going on here, because every time you go through this map, you learn something else, depending on which direction you go. You can go the same direction every time and see what the outcomes are, but you get different outcomes, you'll get different equipment, you'll meet different people, there'll be different boons that come out of the quest, or harm that come out of the quest and everything. In this case, because we're using Venatus in her with her wolf pet, a lot of the elven equipment kind of relates to the way she does things. You know, the orcs are kind of tanky, the trolls are kind of tanky. You know, the elves are more evasion, stealth, etc. Oriented. The dwarves are more berserker, DPS, kind of oriented. So each of the different races has different characteristics, and they all have different equipment sets, all kinds of things that you can put together for bonuses, all of that kind of stuff. In our case, we're going to pick one of the paths with her that we haven't really gone down. You can see one time we started over here and then we went down this path. That's how we discovered this particular event. In our case today, we're going to start here and then we're going to move on down. So before I get into it, I'm going to spend a minute talking about kind of how it works. I mean, again, many people have seen these, but up here you've got how much gold you have. You've got your potions. You can have up to 3 potions that are up here. You've got your weapons and your equipment. Right now I start out with nothing but my little primitive bow. And we'll get into equipment and how all that works and stuff as we go along. Myself here, lovely Venatus that's here, has some abilities, right? She's a summoner. That means I can press this summoner button and summon my wolf pet. She could have different pets. She has a boar pet to start with, for example. She's a fox's apprentice, so whenever evasion gets triggered, it increases connection by 1 per evasion. All right, connection is how you connect with your pets. And connection is the tracking of how strong that is. Many cards are influenced by how much connection you have. You get more better things with your pet when you have more connection. And then Waggy Tail, which is the name of the fox, this summons the fox. It grants him an evasion, which evasion basically means you can avoid the next attack. And every time that Waggy Tail attacks, she can inflict 2 bleeding on all the enemies for each connection she has. So if she had 10 connection, for example, that would be 20 bleeding. Bleeding, of course, is damage over time that causes through them. So here's our opponent over here on the other side, a wild boar. And up here, it'll tell you what's going on. So there's a frontal attack going on that's going to deal 12 damage. Well, you notice I've only got 50 health over here. So that's a pretty significant hit from the old wild boar starting out here. Again, the boar's health. Then the boar starts exposed, which means the damage from attacks is increased by 50%. That's awesome because we'll really do some damage. But when they lose HP, they gain strength, which will increase this number up here. So as we look down at the cards and everything, there's a couple of important things to note. First, over here's our energy level. Notice we have 5 of 5. That determines how many of these cards we can play. And there are things that'll modify energy, make it better, make it worse, etc. So you can start to see what you can do with these cards. Let's just talk about each one of these. Premonition. So the other thing about these particular cards is that they flip. So when I'm in this mode without my pet, right, they're this face. You'll notice that there's a other side, which you see hovering up there to the right, and that's what they'll be when my pet is out. So in my mode, if the target's intending to attack, I'll gain 1 evasion, which I'm actually going to play because having evasion is always good. So penetrating attack, this is an attack card which deals 7 piercing damage. We'll talk about that and how it works in a minute. But you'll see on the flip side, it's a reinforcing attack with a paw attack. So it's going to deal 7 damage, and then my pet's going to gain 1 strength, which increases my damage. So, you'll notice almost every card has other side. I think every card for Vanitas has other side. Other characters work differently. Everybody has a different set of mechanics around their cards and things. Again, similar to Slay the Spire, if you've ever played that. So I don't really need to draw one or anything. I've got enough stuff to do here. So since I've got 2 other premonitions here, I'm going to go ahead and take another one because I love evasion, and it's always good to get a couple of evasion. This is a very weak starting thing, so I could beat this easily, but I'm also walking you through, how to do these things. The other cool thing here is you'll see you've got 2 sets of tabs that you can open. So this opens up and lets you know about your draw pile, which is the one that's on the left. You can see how that works. It'll also tell you about your discard, which is on the right, and it'll show burn cards. Burn cards are cards that you either have to burn to get their effect, in other words, they're one-time use cards, or you burn them to discard and do other kinds of things. So again, you can take a look here and see what kind of cards you have in your hand, right? So you can see right now we got 2 skill cards, and nothing, nothing else here other than these attacks, attack. This is what's in this deck, by the way. So when I open this up and I look at the draw pile, right, that's what we're looking at is what's available in each of these piles, right? So when you see 2 skill cards in the discard pile, that's over here, 2 skill cards in the discard pile. You can see in the draw pile, you've got 4 attack cards and 1 skill card, right? So if you click on this one, here's those 5 cards showing you what they are. This is your singular skill card because I already had a couple of the premonition ones in there. And this is, the other side of the equation, so your discard pile. Again, when you're in here, you can click between either one, but by default, each of these calculates on the left, your draw pile, on the right, your discard pile. Now, a couple of other things that you'll see over there, like those gears and everything, and the little swords. We'll get into all that later. Gears over here, those are skills versus, attack cards. And again, all those icons are right on the card itself. Let's see. What next is important? We got one left. Let's do a piercing attack so we can see how that works. Boom. So you'll notice that piercing attack, even though it said 7, did 10 damage. That's because of this exposed function over here, rounded down. So it actually did an extra 3 points. So that's why it took 10 damage. You'll also notice it put a breach on here. For every breach, it increases your piercing damage whenever you have a weapon that does that. There are things other besides bows that do that, but for the most part, Vanitas is going to stay with their bow. You'll also see that the fierceness got activated because he started gaining strength. So this went up to 15 here. And then you'll see these 3 points. That's why it went up. It was 12, gained 3 points of strength for fierceness because of the level of damage he took. So therefore, it's now going to do 15 damage. Now, my choices are easy. I could go ahead and evade this damage because I've got 2 evasion out here. So when he attacks, I could, keep from getting hit by expending one of my evasion. And that's not a choice. It'll automatically happen. Anytime you're hit, anything that you have blocking or doing things like evasion will be used, right? Or I could come over here and summon my lovely fox. And so Waggy Tail is out now in front of me. Notice Waggy Tail comes into being with 1 evasion. So Waggy Tail's already got 1 evasion, so she's not going to take this 15 damage that comes across here. You'll notice that whenever Waggy Tail dies, they're going to be unavailable for 2 turns, and then they can come back again. Also, you'll notice that they have taunt. So that means the only thing the enemies can target over here is Waggy Tail, because she's protecting me. Now you notice we're out of energy, so nothing else I can play, and the intern's blinking over here. So we're going to go ahead and end the turn and watch how it plays out. So first thing's going to happen, Boar's going to attack. I activated evasion, so therefore took no damage. So now, if you want to see what somebody's thinking, right, Pivot is turning around for a second attack, right? So when the boar does a frontal attack, they have to turn around. They're running at us, right? So they have to turn around to come back to do it. Waggy Tail over here is waiting for whatever I'm going to tell them to do, which is related to all of these cards. So I have no evasion right now. So the first thing I want to think about doing is doing this Foxy trick, which is going to gain me some evasion. It would also restore health if I'd taken any damage. So first thing I'm going to do is get my evasion back. That's my way of avoiding dying. Some other things have shields and all kinds of stuff that can do that. Mine is evasion. I'm a fast, quick, agile thing. So now we want to think about how am I going to do some damage here? Well, the first thing you want to do is try to buff yourself as much as possible. So this boar move right here, which I've always thought is strange. I think they need to rename this because this comes from the other pet. You know, you're going to gain 2 strength until the end of the turn. So boom. Now I've got 2 strength, which means I'm going to +2 attack damage for anything that I do. So the other thing is you'll notice when we talk about these cards, you'll see one here does 8 damage because this is a 2 card and I've got 2 energy left over here. And these are both 1s. So I could do 2 1s, which would be 6 + 6 is 12, or 1 2, which does 8, right? And so all of these inflict bleeding for each connection. Well, I don't have any connection over here. That would be right down here at the bottom next to where my evasion is because I didn't spend time building it up. So one of the things about Venatus as she does her things is that you have to spend time when you're in your own form without your pet building up some connection so that when your pet gets summoned, you can use that connection to enhance how well your pet performs. Doesn't matter so much here in these early battles, but later on as battles get harder, it's really important to have that connection for your pet. So we're going to spend these 2, here we go, boom, to do some damage. You probably saw that 7 and the 2 that went across over there, right? And so we're going to do it again. And that did appear 9 against, you know, the thing actually, you know, so now we don't have any more energy to spend over here. It's down to 14, you know, and it's still exposed. So that's why it's taking extra damage. Again, this is an early stage, you know, battle so that the enemies are going to be weaker. All right, so he's turned around now, and now he's going to hit me for 15 again. So now it's up to me. Now I've got 1 evasion. The challenge with this is that if I have no evasion, I gain 1 evasion. So it really doesn't behoove me to take another Foxy trick right this minute. So it's better if I do this, which is going to give me another strength. You'll notice the 2 strength I had at the end of last round is gone because a lot of these that add strength are only temporary. This is a permanent strength. So bam, we're going to hit him with that. And now we've got a permanent strength. Now he's down to 4, has no block, nothing going on here. So we're basically going to take him out. And end of line for him. So now we're at the reward screen. Typically, you'll get some gold awards. It's tracked up here. And then you'll get some items and things. You can also skip these. There are times where you don't want to amass too much gold. There are times where you won't want a particular object because you got to carry it around or it's cursed or there could be all kinds of reasons why you don't want an object. Usually here in the beginning, highly unlikely. Also, when you get your card draw in here, you have to think about what's in your hand because it's going to make a difference. So one thing that's cool is this works as opposed to some other games where you can't actually see your hand when you're thinking about this. So anytime you want to take a look at your hand, you can cruise through here and call it up to look at it while you're trying to make this decision. So here's that connection one I was talking about. You can burn this and gain 1 connection. And you can look up here on the other side, you get 1 strength. So super useful. One card point for 1 thing that you might need. Excellent card. Ward. So ward is a function that basically protects you from certain spells. So very useful in that sense. And on the other side of this card is balm, right? Balm is actually starts the healing function. It's basically giving you more healing every turn to be able to bring luck. So another fantastic card and 0 cost, which means you won't use your particular stuff to do it. I like this card because Ward's always good because some debuffs are pretty painful. Deceptive Strike, and attack card. Now, there needs to be a balance in your hand between skill and attack cards. There are spellcasters, in particular in the game, that can stop you from being able to use your skills, for example. So it's good to have a balance of attack cards that you're going to have enough to be able to do that. But again, then there are times when you won't be able to get through armor or do different kinds of things, and you need skills to be able to help you. So again, there's always a balance between attack and skill cards. So this one deals 5 piercing damage, which is awesome for me. And if no health damage is dealt, for example, it gets blocked, right, you'll draw a jab, which is a particular attack that will let you deal 6 damage. Yeah, you notice it says burn there, so it's only one-time use during the battle, but it's also 0 cost, right? And so pretty cool. On the other side, you'll notice we're Deceptive Strike when we're in our human form, and Deceptive Throw when we've got our pet. The pet attack is actually, similar to my attack. They both cost 2, etc. In our case, I always go back and forth. We're going to take Ward just because super useful. Little defense goes a long way. All right, so we've completed the first battle right here, and we're going to look to decide which of the other 2 that we're going to do here. We could go down 2 paths. We could go to a Powerful Thirst, or we could go to an unknown battle encounter. All right, so we're going to go right back into the next combat from there. And as you can see on this trail, we're going to be moving our way down this way. I haven't really decided which way to go. That's one of the great things about this game. When you're doing a playthrough, you're doing a couple of things. One, you're trying to figure out your path, right, and survive and fight through things. And obviously the enemies are getting harder as you go along. But you're also trying to think about, okay, what do I need? Let's talk about inventory for a second before we get into it. Inventory is really simple right now. We have nothing. On the other side, we have our bow, our primitive bow, which comes with a couple of cards that are all about piercing damage because it's a bow. It also allows us to ignore barbed, which means when we're shooting our arrow, we don't actually melee combat somebody, so we're not getting damaged by them when they have spikes or things like that. We also got 1 potion, which is the Elixir of Recovery, which lets us, both us and our pet, restore health around things. We don't have any boots. We don't have any armor. We don't have any rings or amulets or things. We don't have lots of choices. We've got what we've got. We can't see our pet, though. Hello, pet. What a great thing. That's right. Go away. All right. So as you march through here, you learn what kind of rewards you'll get from hitting these different areas. So these paths you choose, depending especially on your character, allow you to get certain kinds of loot. So if you're in the Elvish area, which we're kind of in right now, you're more likely to get Elvish related loot. We'll talk about that when we get to some Elvish loot. Let's get into another fight right this minute. So this particular fight that we're getting into right this minute is with a dwarf this time. Now, you can always hover over people and you'll get to see what they can do. So in his case, he's got abrasiveness, which gives him block and strength when he does things. And he also, that strength gives him an extra attack damage. And how does that occur? Well, you can also see that he's got Berserk, which is they gain a fury when playing 2 cards of the same type in a row once per turn. So when I play 2 attack cards, for example, he's going to get Fury, which is going to increase his strength and such. We'll see that how I'll play 2 in a row just so you can see what happens with that. So now I notice it's just me. Pat isn't here, so we're going to go down and I'm going to pick what I'm going to do down here. If there was a magic user or somebody that was going to cast some spells, I'd probably put Ward up. It costs 0, and it doesn't go away until you use it. So it's kind of like, okay, I should probably do that, right? This target is not intending to attack. He's intending to defend, which means I can't do my cool premonition thing, which gives me an invasion, so that I have to basically not do that, which is okay. He's not attacking, and hope I get one of those next time. Again, this gets into your card draw, your deck, all those kinds of things when things come up. So thinking about what I'm going to do, I know I'm going to do Perforating Blow right off the bat, because I want to do a couple of piercing damage on this boy. So you'll notice when he got attacked, I took off 7 points of damage. Well, they were both 3. So how did I do 27? Well, as I did the first piercing damage, every piercing damage adds 1 to the other piercing damage you do. So if there was 1 pierce over here and I did a 3 pierce, it would do 4 damage, etc. So now the next time I do that, so I'm going to do Quick Hand, which deals 4 damage and draws 1. Notice though it is not piercing damage. So that just does a straight 4 damage. However, since I played 2 attack cards in a row, as you saw from that little growling that's up there, Fury has now been done, which means the next time he attacks, he's going to do double damage. And I'm like, hey, wait a minute. So what did I draw? Well, look, I don't have a lot of cool cards in my deck yet, so I drew another Quick Hand. Well, you know what the heck. Let's do some more damage. Well, now I do Premonition again. So as you can tell, what's in my hand, Quick Hand, and Premonition. So at this point, I'm saying, you know what? Let's go ahead and summon the old fox up and Waggy Tail's here, because Waggy Tail has some different choices about what Waggy Tail wants to do. So I don't want to do Foxy Trick because, you know, I don't need more evasion and I haven't lost any health. So I'm going to do a different kind of attack. Again, I have no connection because I haven't built any on the other side. So it just did, you know, a straight attack. So we're done with this turn. So let's let him get his defenses up, which is what he's going to do. So now he's got 12 block. So I have to get through this block to be able to do this last 8 damage. So let's think about how that works. And by the way, he's going to do 6 damage, but I've got evasion up, which means that will not happen. In other words, I won't take the damage. So now I'm going to do this 7 damage to get my strength like I did before, which is going to give me up. Notice that, you know, that got taken out of his block first, but now I've got an extra strength. So now I'm going to do 7 damage again. So now I've penetrated the block and I've gone in to do that, to basically pass the block to attack him. He's down to 6. Now look across over here. I'm like, oh, I got 2 energy left over here. So I'm going to do 5, which left 1. And now I'm going to do, oh, what happened? Why can't I do this? What's going on? It's driving me crazy. Well, these are all 2s and I have 1 energy left, which means I can't do anything else. So I've got to suffer through his attack. Here he comes. Bang. But you'll notice I evaded, so no problem there. But he gained some more block, but he still only got 1 left. So what do I have down here? 5 damage. Pet gains 2 strength until the end of the turn. He's got 2 points left. I'm now going to deal 7. And that's how he died. So now we're in the reward phase again. I'm going to take our reward. Some really good stuff here. So cards are always interesting, right? They'll, you know, you want to look at what they do. Like set an example here. By the way, your next pet's going to be a bird pet. So you're kind of getting a preview of what's coming on. So this gives you 5. If the target is killed, gain 10 connection. That's one way you gain that connection that we were talking about earlier. Boomerang, deal 4, return the last burn card to the deck. So if you've got a lot of burn cards, we really don't yet, but if you do, this is a way to get them back into your deck, even when they've been burned. Normally when they're burned, they're out of the game for this battle, right? So this lets us gain an evasion. Everybody here knows how much I like evasion, so we're taking that one. So here we are, ready to carry on. I think it's a good spot for us to, you know, take a break. And we'll be carrying on this series. Let me know in the comments down below if you're interested in this, if you want to see more lore, you want to see different, you know, commentary on weapon types or how the different characters work or all those kind of things. I really look forward to spending more time with everybody going through this game. It's a super fun indie game that's not publicized a lot. So, you know, if you like these kind of games, go check it out. You'll see a link to the actual game down below. So thanks, everybody. Have a fantastic day.